Please excuse the interruption while I share some important information about the Sunday Morning Coffee podcast. If you would like to support the show, and believe me, I appreciate you supporting the show just by watching, there are a couple of ways that you can help out. You can visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/smcpod. That's patreon.com/smcpod, where for just $4 a month, you can receive early access to episodes and subscriber-only content. If you prefer to make a one-time donation instead of a monthly donation, you can head over to buymeacoffee.com/smcpod. I'm not going to spell that one out, but it's spelled exactly as it sounds. buymeacoffee.com/smcpod, where you can make a one-time donation in any amount. Your support does not go unnoticed. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your support, and I hope you enjoy the rest of today's episode. I'm very happy to welcome Lilli Badcock to the Sunday Morning Coffee podcast. Lilli, appreciate you joining me, and thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. I'm here full of cold, but I'm here, so I'm excited. You're lucky you're on that side of the screen.
I don't know what it's like over. I'm assuming you're in the UK by your accent, but I'm not sure what it's like there. But there's all sorts of nasty stuff going around here in Canada as well, so it's kind of hard to avoid it.
Yes, no, it's that time of year. We're all purging, so it's good. Better out than in.
That's right. That's right. So just start. I ask my audience, my guests, to tell the audience just a little bit about yourself to get started, the path that led you where you are today, and sort of what path you're on.
Absolutely. So I'm Lilli. My business is called Sing to Heal Limited, and what that means is I use singing as a modality to help people heal themselves from the inside out. And by heal, I just mean find their joy again, find their purpose, and just let go of some of the stress and the anxiety that can hold them back. And I've been a singer my entire life. My parents would probably say that I sang before I could even speak properly. And for a big chunk of time, I was a professional singer and a vocal coach. And then I lost my voice for 3 weeks years ago now. And having the benefit of hindsight and putting the pieces together, I can see that what led up to that voice loss was immense trauma, coming from all kinds of ways, actually. So my story there wasn't one big traumatic thing that happened. It was lots of little things that on their own would not even feel like that much, or even if they did feel like a lot, you could kind of say, well, that's how life goes. But they'd built up and culminated in this voice loss. And with my voice, I lost my entire identity, my confidence. I wasn't particularly studious as a child, but singing was something I could always do. So then when I couldn't sing, I was like, what am I good for? I don't understand. And that put me on a path of having to find value in myself when my gift wasn't present. So the thing that I thought made me awesome was taken away, and I had to find that in me some other way because I didn't have my voice at that time. So it slowly started to morph. I was diagnosed with anxiety a couple of years after that, and again, really that rocked my sense of identity, and I thought I didn't know who I was. I didn't want to be an anxious person. So started looking into some, holistic ways to manage the symptoms, but found all of the things that I was doing were helpful. But the thing that made the biggest difference to me was singing, because alongside all of it, I just continued to sing. I continued to teach. Even when I had no voice, I still taught. I still found a way. I actually started listening to Missy Elliott because I couldn't sing along to that. So then I wasn't wrecking my voice, but I could still, get the energy of it. And it's kind of led me to this point now where I'm now a trained sound healer. So I started to explore a few years ago the benefits of sound vibration and how that can bring about a healing effect in the body. And I mean, there's so much more to say, but that's basically where I'm at now and why I've arrived at this place doing what I'm doing.
I'm sure we'll get to all that other stuff as we go along today, but I just a couple things I wanted to touch on about what you mentioned. So when you lost your voice, and these things were sort of building up like a snowball rolling down a hill. You know, they start small, but as the snowball rolls down the hill, it gathers not only size but speed as well at the same time.
Yeah.
So was there a point where these things were building up before you lost your voice that you thought, you know, something isn't quite right with me, or was it loss of the voice that was the actual sort of realization point?
Yeah, so again, hindsight is an amazing thing. I think now, knowing what I know about anxiety and how it can show in the body, there were definitely signs that it was coming, but I did not associate those things with there being anything wrong. I just thought, this is life, you know. I'd get extremely angry. I'd get these like anger outbursts, and I'm not an angry person at all. I like the complete polar opposite, actually. And yet there would be these moments where I would just lose it, and I couldn't even explain why. It would be nothing major had happened. Like, there was one time I'd written an email, or I'd written 2 or 3 lines, and I deleted it. You know, like you sometimes do, you hit the wrong button. It was like I rang my husband in such a state. He thought someone had died, and I'd literally just deleted an email. So it was the complete like the reaction I was having did not match the thing that had just happened, you know. But at the time, I'm just rolling with the punches. I'm someone who is a real glass half full kind of person. I'm someone that even if I'm not feeling very good, I'm like, it'll be okay. Like, we crack on, we power through, you know. And I was always very positive and really truly believed in the power of my mind. Still do, but now I'm very reverent and and appreciative that sometimes life's going to put you on your butt, you know, no matter how positive you are. And crucially for me, it was a big realization that it's okay to have those negative thoughts and feelings. And this had all come about for me because I'd been stuffing those down. So I think if you'd asked me at the time, then I would have said, you know, it came out of nowhere. I lost my voice, and it was like, what's happening? Having now gone on the journey and looked back, I can see how there were probably signs that things were unraveling, but I was so, you know, focused on moving forward, pushing through, that I wasn't paying attention to those signs, and I didn't even realize that they were symptoms of that anxiety. I just thought it was life, you know.
And again, with the benefit of hindsight, you mentioned that little things would make you go into pretty much a rage, or, you know, whatever word you want to use with it. Looking back now, do you believe that those outbursts, those little things, were just kind of a culmination of everything else, and that was just almost like your body saying, pardon my language, fuck this, I've had enough of this, I'm gonna explode now? Do you feel that was, because it's obviously not the little, because an email, you take 5 minutes, you retype it, it's done, right?
Yeah.
But when you have all this other stuff piling onto you, it just takes that one little straw to break that camel's back.
Absolutely. That's it. That's exactly what it is. It's so the analogy I like to use is sweeping dust under a rug. So if you've got a bit of dirt on the floor, sweep it under the rug. No one's going to notice that, right? You can walk on the rug still. It doesn't look any different. If you continue to sweep dust and dirt under the rug over a period of time, and it's kind of a dumb analogy, but I'm kind of the queen of dumb analogies, I've realized. But let's just say that after 10 years of sweeping stuff under the rug, you're gonna get a lump in the rug, right? At some point you're gonna trip over the rug, and it's gonna have such a huge mound, you're not gonna be able to get over it. And then you're gonna have to address the problem that what you should have done was sweep up the mess and dispose of it, and not just stick it under the rug. And I think that's what I was doing emotionally. I wasn't allowing myself, because I just had this mindset that crying is a weakness. And, you know, and I kind of had half understood vibration in that, you know, I knew I wanted to be high vibe. I wanted to be happy and joyful and hopeful and have dreams and aspirations. So I would really champion those emotions. And anything that didn't feel or look like that was kind of like I couldn't even give it any attention or energy. It was like that I just have to push that away. That's not aligning with where I'm going. It doesn't align with what I want to create. And I mean, I could go into a whole rant, but, you know, I'd got into self-development, and so much self-development back in the day was actually championing this toxic positivity. It didn't say anywhere, just cry. If life's hard, cry. You know, if you're angry, be angry, because actually you're right. It was never about the email. It's never about any of those things. When we get to that point, it's because the things that really matter haven't been addressed. And then it's just the straw that breaks the camel's back. It's that final just thing that where everything just goes, and then you have this enormous explosion. And then you're like, you don't even know what you're dealing with then, because it's everything. And then you get overwhelmed. And then that creates a whole other shit show. I'm so happy you dropped the F-bomb. Now I can feel it.
Oh yeah, go right ahead. There's no censorship here. Yeah. And you know, it's interesting that you mentioned toxic positivity, because as you were speaking, I was just thinking about that, and that was going to be my follow-up, is that, you know, we've all known people in our lives that are toxically negative.
Yeah.
But when you hear toxic positivity, you think, well, how can positivity be toxic? But if you go on Instagram or whatever, and every post is, you know, you're strong, you're tough, you're a queen, you're a king, you can whatever, says nothing about, you know, sometimes it's okay to, you know, to cry or scream or be, you know. And I think that especially for young people being so influenced by social media, when they see this kind of toxic positivity, it sort of holds them back from feeling their own emotions, because they feel that, like you said, like, you shouldn't be feeling this way. You want to be positive, you want to be this, you want to be that, but it doesn't work that way. You need that release valve.
Yeah, it's what I would call, it creates duality. So on the one hand, you feel amazing, you feel empowered, you feel inspired by it, you know, and you actually crave these sources of information that tell you that you're strong, you're a queen, you can cope, everything's fine. So on the one hand, you kind of crave it and you love it because it makes you feel good. It gives you that dopamine hit. But underneath that, if that isn't how you're feeling, you just have this little bubbling underneath of going, yeah, but that's not how you feel though. And then that's insidious, because then that starts to feed thoughts of, so what's the matter with you then? What's wrong with you? Why do you know you're a queen, but you're not feeling like a queen?
And it makes you feel like a phony.
Right, you do. You feel like a total phony, and you feel like you create, this is what happened to me, you feel like Jekyll and Hyde. You create this persona that the world sees that's so happy and joyful and like all the time, and you know, and everyone congratulates you on that, which actually is pressure then to be more of that version of yourself. And so I always called it my dark side when I started going to therapy. So I had hypnotherapy, I had energy healing, I tried all the things. And I had this part of me that I would just call the dark side. And it was the part of me that didn't want to be happy that day, didn't want to go around singing all the time, didn't want to see the good stuff. I actually just wanted to have a real rant. Like, and I'm still what I would call a positive person. I still lead with joyful energy. I've learned that that's who I am, and that's okay. And I'm actually in a world where people don't know how to access that. So I feel lucky that I do. But I've also now embraced this dark side of me. Instead of trying to only be the light version, I've learned to balance it out. And now I'm just such a fan of, I just want what's real. There's a Disney film called Encanto, which I love. I'm a huge fan of Disney and Disney films. And the message in Encanto is that you can have this amazing gift, but you are more than your gift. So it speaks directly to the experience that I had, because my gift was singing, and my gift is still singing, But I am a whole person even when I can't sing. And there's a line in Encanto that I love where she says, I'm so sick of pretty, I want something true. And it's like, I don't care if the edges are scuffed, and I don't care if it looks a bit messy and a bit chaotic. I just want to see what's real. And I think the social media age that we're in, those of us that really understand the fact that we need to be balanced crave this realness. Like, I love it when I see people do it. Like, I've come on this interview today with a red nose, I'm full of cold. I did wash my hair, so I'm not a total
You got
scally.
that far, yeah.
But I could have put on a full face of makeup and really thought about what you're seeing in the background. I mean, I don't know if you can see my plate that I just ate my sandwich off. This is real life.
Yeah.
This is how it works. And I think for me, and I can't be the only one, for me, when I see somebody being seen like that, it just lets me relax a bit. I'm like, oh, because guess what? I have immense inner peace. I have this innate ability to tap into my joy, to know myself. And that doesn't mean that life isn't hard and that I don't get sad and that I'm not anxious sometimes or stressed out, because that's the journey of life. But the difference is, back in the day when the anxiety was hitting, I didn't know who I was. So when the anxiety came in, I was full of fear. I don't understand who I am. I don't know what this is. I don't know if I can cope. Whereas now, when anxiety comes in, it still feels crap because it's anxiety, but I do not lose for a second who I am. I know that I'm more than that, and I know that I'll come through, and I know that I can. And that's actually the same message that the toxic positivity posts will give you, but it's rooted in something real and grounded. And it's like, you are a queen, you can get through, and you can feel like shit while it happens.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay,
That's right. And it's, it sort of reminds me of, like, we're talking now about, more of a mental, illness, anxiety, but it's kind of the same with physical. If you look on Instagram again, let's go back to that, filters. Everybody can make themselves look, if not perfect, pretty good. Even though, like you said, if you have a cold and your nose is red and you're full of sneezes or whatever, and
yeah.
young people look at all these people on Instagram who look perfect, and they think, I'm not perfect, I'm not good enough, I'm not like that. And it's incredibly toxic. And you would hope that they have someone there to teach them, or that they learn themselves that they should embrace themselves, imperfections and all, because who among us doesn't have imperfections?
Yeah, absolutely. It's permission to feel your feels. It's permission to say if you're having a bad day, whilst simultaneously recognizing you don't have to stay there. My whole vibe is, you can thrive in spite of this stuff. It doesn't have to slow you down. I'm such a believer in that, because I've done it. I do it. It's a constant choice every single day to recognize how I'm feeling. I'll honor the feelings that are coming up. I'll hit my journal. I'll meditate. I'll go for a walk. I'll do whatever I need to feel those feelings. And then I bring myself back to a place of empowerment. So this is a huge thing for me. I was very disempowered for a long time. I call it Rapunzel syndrome. I was in my tower, flinging my hair out the window, waiting for someone to come and help me. And I had to help me, but it didn't mean perfection or this polished, shiny shop front. It was just, put one foot in front of the other, just take one step in the right direction, and that's enough, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. And just honor how you feel, whilst remembering that you have the power to then choose off the back of that. So I feel sad because da-da-da-da-da. And now where do I choose to put my focus? What do I choose to call in? What do I choose to repeat as my inner monologue? Do I want to keep this crappy story that makes me feel shit? Or do I want to change it and feel better? And it really is a choice, even when it doesn't feel like it.
And it's something that like any other skill, takes practice and repetition. Because, for example, I'm a huge football fan, and if I go out to the football pitch now and try to hit a free kick like David Beckham, it's not going to happen. and it's never going to happen. But the more I practice it and work at it, I'm going to get better at it, even though I'm not going to be ever a great. But it's the same thing with what you're talking about. The more you go through that, where you say, yeah, I'm having a shitty day, I'm feeling this or that, but you talk yourself through it and you focus on what helps you through that, that's going to become second nature to you, so that eventually when you start to feel that way, that response is also going to become second nature.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's that it becomes your default setting. So when I first navigated this, it was 2013, I think I was diagnosed with anxiety. So for a few years I was, navigating that. And this is what created my business in the beginning. I had something called the Confidence Academy. I had a podcast called the Confidence Academy, and it was all about you can thrive in spite of anxiety. And I interviewed people from all over the world that were sharing their stories, because I wanted other people to know there was hope, and I needed to know there was hope. So it really inspired that for me. And then in 2020, I lost a really close friend. The whole world was shut down, as we know. And what I was navigating was grief. But the weird thing was, when it started to show up, it felt very much like the anxiety. I was back feeling a bit hopeless, didn't have faith in anything, just questioned everything, like you do when you face something traumatic like the loss of a loved one. It's natural to question what you were believing. It's easy to believe these fairy tales when life is wonderful, but when the shit hits the fan, can you still root your belief? And I couldn't. I didn't. My faith wasn't rooted in anything, and I ended up in a really dark place. And I can remember this particular day. I'd had to call my husband home from work. I couldn't even sit in the house and look after my children. I just was crying constantly. I took myself to bed, and the thoughts that were rolling around in my head were, life is not at all what you thought it was, and you are not at all what you thought you were, and you can't be this person that inspires other people, because you can't even help yourself. You can't even get out of this bed right now. And this narrative was so loud and it felt so real. And I just remember the moment where I just believed I was really sick. It was like, you're not inspiring, you can't motivate anyone, like all this stuff you've built for your business is complete bollocks. What's true is that you're mentally ill, and this is all you're ever going to be, and everyone around you knows it. And so they just let you talk about all your big dreams and that, but actually everybody knows that you're not going anywhere. This is who you are. This is who you'll always be. There is no hope of it ever changing. And that tiny little bit of light that was left just went out, and it was so dark. And in that darkness, when I was completely sobbing and it just felt awful, this little voice came in and said, what would feel better than this? And I was so pissed off with that question, because I was like, who cares? That felt like toxic positivity.
Yeah.
Who cares? Who cares what would feel better than this? What a bullshit thing to ask yourself. I was angry that I'd asked myself that question, but it kind of took root, and it wouldn't go away. And in the end, I was like, oh, all right. Well, I suppose I would feel better if I could believe that I was inspiring, and that this was all for a purpose, and that, the signs I thought I was seeing from my friend that passed were real. It would feel better to believe that, but I don't believe that. None of that's true. So I still feel shit. So I still felt like crap, but I'd kind of answered the question. And then as the days went on, I just started to realize that I didn't actually have evidence of either scenario. And I was driving along it was, a few days after that, I was driving along in my car, and it just suddenly hit me. And I was like, you don't actually know which one of those is real. You don't have evidence for either. You've had one thought that feels like shit, and you've had another one that feels a bit better. You don't have evidence of either. All you've got is a choice. So what do you choose? Do you choose to continue believing that you're just mentally ill and never going to make anything of your life? Or do you choose to believe that this inspiration you feel, and that these nudges that you get, and these signs that you think are real, do you choose to believe in those? And I have to constantly come back to that. I have to constantly remind myself, what are you choosing to believe in? Do you believe in the magic, or don't you? It doesn't matter, but you're in charge of that choice. And that really shifted my perspective hugely. And then off the back of that, I thought, well, what if I was just lowered into this darkness momentarily to remember how people feel? Because I do believe that I'm here for people that are in that place, because I've walked that path. And actually, I come back to that path again and again and again. I've been there recently, but it's not as bad now. And what I think it is, sometimes you'll feel like you're being pulled back to that place, but I don't think it's that. I think we're spiraling up. I think it's a spiritual evolution. And I think you're brought back to a circumstance. And even though the circumstance feels the same, so it might still be anxiety or it might still be stress or whatever the thing is, you're not the same. The situation might be the same, but you're not. You've had a different experience since the last time you were there. And this was literally what happened to me. And I recognized that I was back, but I was like, I'm back now, but I've got different perspective. I've got an expanded view on what I think life is. I've got much deeper faith now. My faith now is rooted. So faith can still be rattled, but it's now rooted. I can very quickly bring myself back to what I believe and what I choose to believe is real. So yeah, it was a really pivotal moment for me to realize that it was just a choice. It feels very real when you're telling yourself the shitty things, and it feels like pie in the sky, not real when you're telling yourself the dream. You don't actually have evidence of either though. So what feels good? You can trust what feels good. So that's what I did. I still don't have evidence. I could still be a complete lost cause, but I chose to believe the other thing. And that gives me peace of mind in my life. That gives me purpose, direction, inspiration, motivation to show up, get up, do the things that I feel like I want to do. And that has a ripple effect on people around me. So that has to be the better choice, right? Rather than saying they're crying that I'm a crap human. So yeah.
And it's funny how easy it is to, as humans, for us to convince ourselves of the negative thoughts, and how difficult it is to convince ourselves of the positive thoughts. We can have 10 people a day saying, oh, you're doing a great job, you're funny, you're smart, you're whatever. But that one little nugget in our head that says, nah, you're not any of that. They're lying to you. Don't believe them. You're the opposite. So it's not easy to change your mindset to start to believe those positive thoughts more than the negative.
Yeah. And this is what you were saying. It's actually, it's a compound effect. It's actually not possible to change your mindset consciously in the face of struggle. It's not, because you're so in your struggle. And just to really kick yourself in the nuts, whether you like it or not, you identify with the struggle. The struggle becomes who you are. You don't know who you are without it. So it doesn't feel safe to not have it. So then you might really want to change, but actually as humans, we're designed to go with what's safe. We don't like big change. We don't like to feel unsafe. So many of us will stay right where we're being challenged, even though it feels like shit, because at least we know what we're dealing with.
Right.
And so it's not possible to do it in the moment. It's possible to try, but the thing is, you'll say the thing here that's positive. Somewhere deep down, a part of you will be like, nah, that's bullshit. That's not going to work.
That's right.
But over years and years and years of programming it in, of catching these beliefs, turning them around, reframing them, it starts to build a different knee-jerk reaction. And this is what I've noticed, because I've been doing this a long time now. I can still feel anxious, but very quickly it will switch out of that and be like, no, this is what we're doing. This is what we believe. This is who we are. And we move forward like that. So it is possible, but it's not possible the way that so many people choose to teach it. It's like, just take this course, read this book, and you're going to feel better. Well, you will, because of a dopamine hit, and then you'll feel like shit again. And you'll feel worse now, because now you've been told it can be better and you still feel crap. So now you just think that you're a lost cause and you're never going to get any better. Right. I mean, it's a riot, this being a human. Why we all signed up for it, I'll never know. But here we are.
Exactly. Here we are. Now let's get back to the loss of your voice. So when that happened, I would think at the beginning, the first day or so, you thought, oh, maybe you were sick or something, and it would come back. So what was your process through that through losing your voice? What did you go to doctors? Did they think it was something physical? What was that process like, and how did it come about that you regained your gift?
Yeah. So, oh my God, so much to say. So at the time, what was I doing at the time? So at the time I lost my voice, I was now a working singer and a vocal coach. So using my voice all the time, teaching large groups of children, not just adults. So, it was loud, screaming children, and often not on a mic. So I would be like chucking my voice left, right, and center. So, I mean, it's actually no wonder that I lost it, right? Before that, I'd worked on a call center for years. And actually, I was in a habit of losing my voice frequently. So when I first lost it, it was no big deal. It was like, this is what happens. I lose my voice. I would say the first couple of weeks, even, I was like, man, and doctors were like, it's laryngitis, do all the things, rest, drink water. There's not really a lot you can do. When you have laryngitis, it's due to swelling in the throat. So there's really nothing you can do except rest. And then once you've rested for a while, some very gentle vocal exercises to send blood through the vocal cords, to thin out the cords and get a bit of movement there. That's what you do. But it's a process of rehabilitation. So I was kind of cool with that. It got to the third week and I did start to think, this isn't coming back. Like, normally I would have it back by now. I mean, when I lose my voice, usually it will be gone really badly for a day or two. And then after that, it's here, but it's just a bit hoarse. This was gone. It was gone. And so in that third week was when I started to have the thoughts of, oh my God, this might not be coming back. And then the fear kind of crept in, and fear is like fear is not where you want to be, because fear is a liar, and fear will convince you of something that feels true but isn't true. And often that thing will be something that doesn't serve you. So I very quickly spiraled down into this negative fear place. And because I'm a doer, I'm someone that's like, stuff happens and I'm like, what do we do about that? There's got to be a solution. I'm a real like, come on, let's roll up our sleeves and find solutions. So I was like, okay, fine. Maybe I'm not supposed to sing then. And so it was interesting. I didn't lose my faith straight away, because I was like, well, if God wanted me to sing, he wouldn't have taken my voice away. He's taken my voice, so I'm obviously not meant to do it. So actually, again, in hindsight, looking back, it was such a gift, because what that meant was I got to re-look at all of the things I'd done up to that point. And it was like, why do I love working with certain people more than others? What is it about my work that I love versus what am I doing just because it's part of what I have to do? And I uncovered in that process that it wasn't even about the singing at all. It was about the fact that I was building confidence in other people. People would come to my studio with a desire to sing and no real clue if they could. A lot of the time they were coming actually convinced that they couldn't, but they just wanted to. And I realized that my favorite people to work with were the people who came in believing they couldn't, and they would leave realizing that they could. And then I had this epiphany, and I remember saying to my husband, like, oh my God, I'm not even a singing teacher. I'm a confidence coach. I build confidence in people. Singing is just the vehicle. As I'm telling this story, I'm having such a download and an epiphany, which I'll share with you in a minute. It's just, I love it. Love how this stuff works. This is why I've asked to come on podcast, because I activate through my voice. This is full circle moment. My voice is the activator. It isn't just the singing. And I think, to speak on a spiritual level for a minute, I think at that time I was in danger of feeling like singing was the only thing I could do. And I think I'm here to do so much more. And I think singing is such a powerful tool for the work that I do, but it's not the only thing. And so it was a gift. But at the time, yeah, I mean, massive fear, massive depression, because it actually cut off my sense of safety in the world, because singing was how I made money. So then I couldn't sing, so I couldn't make money. I couldn't do gigs, couldn't go to work, so couldn't make money, so couldn't pay bills. So then, my sense of safety was rattled. And so it very quickly became a much bigger issue. It wasn't just that I'd lost my voice, or even that I'd lost my identity. It was, I'm not even safe in the world anymore, because I can't do anything. So the rehabilitation process was long, because actually I very quickly just convinced myself I wasn't meant to sing. So I just left it alone. And I remember people that know me going, that can't be right. Like you've got to be wrong about that. Singing has always been your thing. And I was like, meh. And that was the disempowerment speaking, right? That was the part of me that was like, I'm not in control of this. There's some God in the sky with a big white beard, and he decides what I get. And if I'm a good girl, and if I say my prayers, and if I live my life in a good Christian way, I'll be blessed. And if I'm bad, or if I'm on the wrong path, I'll be smited, and things will be taken away. I must have done something wrong. My voice got taken. I'll accept it. So can you see, it was like a total cocktail of, the acceptance was amazing. That's brilliant. Acceptance is what we should all strive for, because if you're not accepting of your circumstances, then you're in turmoil with yourself, and that can be very frustrating and exhausting. So the acceptance was amazing, but the belief that I wasn't in charge was not so good.
Right.
So I went on this whole tangent of confidence coaching, and I built an entire business around it. And then slowly but surely, I was just drawn back to singing, because singing is just, what I now know, is how I heal myself. It's how I regulate my nervous system. It's how I express my emotions. It's how I let go of that shit that I was talking about before, the stuff that I'd been holding on to. Inadvertently hadn't realized that even though I wasn't consciously addressing these feelings, because I was constantly singing, and because I'm such a fan of singing songs that I feel into, I was actually letting all that stuff go anyway. I just wasn't conscious. I wasn't realizing that that's what I was doing. So I got brought back to singing. And then eventually, because of my vocal coaching background, I knew that there was a way to rehabilitate the voice. And so I called on one of my friends who's an incredible vocal coach, and he helped me to rehabilitate my voice. And it became like, for a long time then, I had my voice back, but it wasn't fully my voice anymore. It felt like a bit damaged. It was like, I used to be a great singer, now I'm only an okay singer. And that is when my own confidence and faith really got chipped away, because I still sound good when I sing, and so people see me as a great singer. So for me to then say I don't feel like I do a good job, there was no sympathy for me whatsoever. They're just like, oh, she's all right. So I would teach my choir, I would bring in recordings of my voice where it was cracking and breaking, and they would all just laugh. And so I would laugh with them, but then I'd go home and cry, because I'd be like, my voice is broken. It's not what it used to be. What really made the difference, and what really brought my voice back, was when I did the sound Reiki. So I trained in sound Reiki healing, which is a form of sound healing, but it uses the principles of Reiki, but you use your voice to heal. So rather than hands on, its voice. And I can't really explain how, but I did the first level, the level 1. And that lady was a beautiful lady, Catherine Varga, absolutely beautiful soul, very, very spiritual. And she kept saying all the way through, when you do the attunement, you're going to receive gifts. And I was like, okay, I'm still 50-50 split down the middle. Love woo-woo, but I'm also really skeptical of it. So I will side-eye my own abilities a lot of the time. I'm like, really, what are we doing? So when she said that, I was like, yeah, I don't know about that. But okay, I'm enjoying the course anyway. Did the level 1 attunement. And I just noticed when I was singing sound Reiki that my voice could just go anywhere. There was no restriction. There were no breaks, no cracks, no flips. And I was like, okay, so trying to be practical about it, trying to be the vocal coach, I was like, well, I'm singing vowel sounds. I'm not singing whole words. So, they are easier to sing sometimes, not always. But maybe that's why. But it still didn't explain, like, when I started healing other people, my voice would go to ridiculously high heights. The crazy thing is, even full of cold, if I was to sound Reiki now, I would probably reach some incredible tones that consciously and kind of practically I wouldn't be able to explain how that's happened, because I know with a cold I'm swollen and whatnot. So I feel like my connection to my spiritual gift is what brought my voice back to be really like woo woo about it. And that was the experience. That was literally the experience. And so alongside that, I would still struggle to sing kind of pop songs, but I could sing sound Reiki and hit any note in the world. And so that really was what gave me back my voice to a place where I was like, I'm in love with this voice now. And it's still a different voice from what I had, but I wouldn't switch it because it's almost better than what I had before, the ability to sing. So I don't know if that answers your question about the process.
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
it really, that was basically it.
Let's talk about the sound therapy a little bit. So I interviewed another gentleman from America who he used to be long ago in a punk rock band. So he was a guitarist. He had some issues in his life, and he ended up getting involved in sound therapy as well, music therapy. So talk a little bit about what it is about what you do that is so healing. Is it frequency? Is it tone? Is it what is it about what you do that is therapeutic?
It's all the things you just said and probably a million things more. And I'll be really honest, I've come in the back door to this. I feel like what I do for my work now is something I've done my whole life just naturally. So I have no cognitive ability to say this is why it works and this is what's happening. I've kind of tried to piece together what I do off the back end of it. So I know that there are studies into sound vibration, for example. When I was having my children, I instinctively made humming sounds while I was birthing my children. And that is a very natural kind of animalistic thing that we do. So there are loads of studies into vibration and how that can heal. And, you know, you'll have heard of things like binaural beats. There are certain frequencies that you can listen to that will change the neural pathways in your brain and, you know, set you up for success or whatever. So there's that side of it. But to speak about my work, honestly, I think it gives people the experience of doing something that they didn't think they could do. So when people come and sing with me, so right now I don't do a lot of one-to-ones, but I facilitate singing groups. So I run a choir on a Tuesday morning. It's called Coffee, Cake and Choir. It's 10 quid. Anyone can come, literally anyone, any age, any ability. We've got everyone there. I think my youngest member at the moment is, how old is she? I think she's about 6 weeks old. No, 12 weeks old. People bring their dogs. Do you know what I mean? Like it's literally for anyone. And so many people walk in there going, oh, you know, I'm not much of a singer, but I do enjoy doing it. So this is the thing. There's this huge number of people who love to sing. They can't explain why they love to sing. And then they think they're bad at it, probably because someone told them they were bad at some point, like siblings, friends, being at school or whatever. They've had a negative experience. So they've got, again, it's duality, this strong desire to sing next to a strong belief that they shouldn't and can't do it. And so what I do is facilitate a space where I don't care. I don't care how good or bad you think you are. I just want you to come and make noise. Just come and do what lights up your soul. It's like a group coffee shop version of what you get when you wind down the windows in your car and just blast. You know, when you're in your car and you're the only one there, you don't care how you sound. And you might not know why you're doing it, but you're singing because it soothes your soul. Mm-hmm. You will choose songs instinctively that your soul needs you to sing. And it might be that they're tear-jerking songs or, you know, songs that are going to evoke a real emotional response in you. They might be like total bangers that just make you feel like you're clubbing again in Ibiza or something like that. Nostalgia plays into it. There's all of these levels. But I think to simplify it, people come and sing and they very quickly realize that what they're telling themselves isn't true and that they can do it. I'd say 95% of people who believe they can't sing are wrong. They can sing. It's just they've been told they can't or they've been told they shouldn't do it. So their belief is what they are leading with. And then they open their mouth to sing and I hear a voice and go, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that voice. So that's one side of it. It's people that have been told you should be seen and not heard, or your voice doesn't matter, or you don't have anything important to say, it can come out in a fear of singing because they think they're afraid to sing, but what they're actually afraid of is expressing how they feel because that wasn't safe at some point. So there's that side of it. And then the knock-on effect is when they very quickly realize that, oh, I can sing and it's allowed, then their brain starts whirring in all the other areas of their life where they're like, well, what else can I do then? What else can I do that I told myself I couldn't? What else is possible for me? I taught my 94-year-old nanny to sing Over the Rainbow. She'd lived 94 years believing she couldn't sing. And it was bollocks. All right, granted, she was probably a better cook. She's going to be Mariah Carey. But this is the thing, and it brings us back to that perfection thing. You know, we grow up listening to records or CDs or tapes or, you know, depending on how old you are, will depend on what you grew up listening to. I listen to all of those things. And what you're hearing is a finished product in a studio that's been mastered and run through all kinds of filters. And then you sing, and because you don't sound the same, you tell yourself that you must be bad or it must be wrong. But there's nothing wrong with expressing yourself. And songs are like music as a whole is such an amazing modality for allowing yourself to bring up emotions that might otherwise be stuck in your body. And if emotions are stuck in your body, it can start to cause havoc. You can have physical sensations like panic attacks, which was what I had. Some people have physical pain in their body. And all right, I'm not saying that you're not going to walk into my choir on crutches and then leave kind of dancing a jig and twirling your crutch around your head necessarily. But singing just makes you feel a little bit better. And then it's the community and the connection that it brings people together as well. And actually, it's the space to just be imperfect. I say it all the time. My choir, I run another choir, more of a show choir, and we had a rehearsal last night. And somebody collared me at the end who'd come for the first time. And they were like, I'm not sure if I was singing the right part. I said, it doesn't matter. Did you feel good when you were singing it? She said, yeah. I was like, that's what matters. It doesn't matter what you sing. I pour my heart and soul into my arrangements and I teach it to the group. Most of the time people go, that's nice. And then they sing whatever they want. But because they're singing what they want with that freedom, it sounds beautiful. That's the sound of freedom. And I just think the world could do with a little bit more of that. So it's multi-layered, the work that I do. It's all of those things and one of those things, and it can ebb and flow and change depending on who the person is. But what lies at the root of it for most people is just the desire to be free of anxiety, stress, overthinking, perfectionism. It's just the desire to be free and joyful. And so I think that's what I facilitate for people, and I use singing to do it.
Couple of things I want to touch on based on what you said. First off, I'm thinking about myself. When do I sing? Like you said, in the car, in the shower. And, if I'm going out with friends or whatever to do karaoke, I'm not getting up there first. I'm going to wait until I'm a few drinks in and that inhibition starts to go away, and then look out. Like the game is on then, because when you're a few drinks in, you don't give a shit what you sound like, really. And you don't care what other people are thinking. But when you're sober, completely dead stone sober, and you're getting like, I'm not going to go up there and sing a song now, like, because you're more cognizant of your own, what your own thoughts are at that point. So there's that. And then the other thing was thinking about, back to when you said you were giving birth. What is the first thing that we do with our babies? We sing to them. Or they have a little mobile with music playing. So from the very first moments of life, pretty much, we are exposed to music in some way, shape, or form, and it becomes ingrained in us. I think music is one of those things that's just ingrained in. I have never ever heard someone say, I don't like music. Like, right. I don't think I've ever heard that in my life. And no. I think it's just because, it's so ingrained in us from a young age that it becomes part of us. And like you said about nostalgia, and you know, music to me is the biggest thing that will take me back to a time and a place. If I hear a
Absolutely.
certain song, I can, oh, I was 16 when this came out. It was, I had this on album, cassette, whatever. There's nothing, maybe movies, TV shows to a degree, but nothing like music.
Yeah, music is powerful. And, I'll go one step even further than that. When you're in the womb, you're hearing rhythms and tones, and, it's a different kind of music, but it's vibration and it's frequency and it's soothing. And what's the first thing a baby will do when they're born? They use their voice. They use their voice to express themselves. And then as we grow older, it gets stuffed into this perfectionist thing with everything else. And singing has become this thing that people think you should only do if you're absolutely amazing at it. And I don't agree. I think if you're going to charge people at £800 a ticket in Vegas, you should probably have some degree of ability to do it, right?
Right.
But too many people are not doing it. And actually, it's funny because you said you've never heard anyone say that they hate music. I haven't either, but I've met a lot of people that said they don't like singing. And then when you dig a little beneath the surface, they actually have always wanted to, but because they feel they can't, then they've built up this aversion to it. So it's like, well, just let yourself do it, and let it be. It's not about the perfection of the singing. It's not about the notes. I have sung my whole life, like I said, but when I got to about 19, I started having vocal coach lessons, like voice lessons. And then I began to train as a vocal coach. So that goes even beyond just voice training for yourself, because then you're learning to diagnose voice types and you're listening to other people's voices and helping them. I would say that was when my confidence was the lowest. And I couldn't understand why. And I just thought there was something wrong with me. Like, you must just be a complete dumbass if you can't do this. But what I've realized is it was because somebody was telling me there was a right and a wrong way to use my voice. And again, I think it's like, take sports, right? If you're going to be an Olympic athlete, then yes, you have to take it seriously. You have to live and breathe it and eat the right food and get enough sleep and do it every day for 8 hours and, take it to that extreme level. But if you just want to knock a ball around in the park, you can knock a ball around in the park. It doesn't matter if you score goals or if you fall over or what. It gives you that joy and that elation. And singing is the same. And I think too many people are holding themselves to a standard as if they're going to be like the next big recording artist. Even the big recording artists don't do that. A lot of what they achieve is achieved in the studio, in the mix afterwards, and I don't want to hear a singer that sings perfectly. I want to hear the inflections in their voice that connect me to the emotion that they're conveying. I want to hear the voice break. I want to hear their flat notes. If you think about how your voice sounds when you're emotional and you sound like this, if somebody is singing a really emotional song and they're just singing it perfectly, all in the right notes and the right key, that does not evoke the emotion in me. And then there is no point in that. The point of music is to evoke emotion. And the reason for that is because emotions are supposed to be felt. They're not supposed to be hung on to. We're not supposed to push them down. We're supposed to let them out. Music is the gift. We've all been given to do that. And whether you're going to sing or just listen to music, I can listen to piano instrumentals and get emotional. You can feel the beating heart of music, whether there's words in it or not. And I just think the more people that know that's available, the better. And in a time, again, I don't know what it's like where you are, but I'm here in the UK. The mental health right now is an epidemic. It's a huge issue. Mm-hmm. And so many people are on waiting lists for years for therapy and meds. And I'm not saying that therapy and meds is a bad thing. It's not. I had therapy and I had meds, and I needed those things at that moment. But actually, I was helping myself as well. And when this again comes back to empowerment, when you can help yourself, and when you understand how, and by the way, if you don't know how, it's do whatever makes you feel amazing. And if that's singing, then do singing. But if it's not, then do painting or go running or whatever it is. That whatever that thing is that you love to do is your direct route to your purpose, and It's the medicine for your soul. And so then you might still need the meds, you might still need the therapy, but if you're also doing this thing that you love, you are having your input, and then the therapy is going to be more powerful. The meds are going to work better. You're not going to need them forever. I was on my meds for 6 months and then I came off and I've never gone back on them. And I know that I'm lucky, and I know that for some people that's not possible because there's all kinds of nuances, but I easily could have stayed on those meds if I didn't know that there was some other way. So I'm really passionate about people accessing singing, because singing is my thing. But if singing isn't your thing, just access the thing that you love. You know, the things that you loved as a child, you didn't have to think about that. It's just what you always did. That's how you heal yourself to a degree. That's how you ground yourself. And that's how you give yourself the very best chance of having the very best type of life, you know?
Absolutely. So before we wrap this up, I give all my guests an opportunity to point my audience to either social media or a website or anything that you would like to share and we would like to draw my audience towards.
Amazing. So probably the best place to come find me is on Instagram, and it's sing to heal. So sing_to_heal on Instagram. And then there's loads of resources on there that you can find. I'm also Sing to Heal on Facebook, or you can look me up under Lilli Badcock and you'll find me there as well.
That's fantastic. I will put all of those in the episode description, and I will encourage my audience to go check you out because everybody, like we said, everybody or mostly everybody loves music, and everybody can relate to, I think, the story that you've told today, and hopefully they can find some good resources there. So Lilli, thank you very much. It's been a fascinating conversation. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Scott. Thanks for having me.
It's been a pleasure.